Boom, we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Nolan Hawkeye Anthony YouTube channel. And I thank all of you for being here, wherever you may be. And of course, however you may be listening. I am going to be continuing with the positional breakdown, positional preview of the Iowa Hawkeye football team for the 2022-23 football season. This is a way for me to give you guys content and also provide you guys with information on what to expect with each positional group. Now, it's not going to always be perfect because at the end of the day, the Iowa coaching staff has a much more in-depth look than what I have or what we have as Iowa Hawkeye fans. And the reality is a lot of guys make massive improvements from one year to the next. So really what I am gauging this off of is, a certain percentage of my own 2 cents, my own intuition, regarding each player, what I saw from last year. It's based off of what I saw from last year, a little bit of prognostication or future predictions regarding each player and their talent. So that is what it's based off of. It's not going to be perfect. And I think you guys understand that. But at the very least, you're going to see who the major players are for each position and things of that nature. Now, for this one, it will be the offensive line. We've already done the quarterback. We've done the running back. We've done the tight end. And we've done the wide receivers. This one is going to be on the offensive line. But before we get into any of that, I want to ask you guys to really consider hitting that subscribe button. Folks, we are so close to hitting the vaunted 1,000 subscriber mark. If you're not aware of why I keep bringing up the 1,000 subscribers, it's because YouTube, when it comes to being able to make ad revenue or receive super chats and things like that, they have two requirements that you must hit. You must have a certain amount of hours watched of your own content from you guys, the listener, and you need to have hit the mark of 1,000 subs on your channel. We already got the one checked off. The only one that we have left is the 1,000 subs. And we're literally so close. We're only 12 subscribers away. It could happen in the next day or so. By the time I'm done making this video, it'll be there. But anyways, I will also put but if you can't do that, at the very least, like, comment, share, you know the drill. I'll put the PayPal and Cash App links in the description if you want to help your boy and his coffee habit. You guys can also go and listen to all this stuff on Anchor. That is also a way of supporting the channel and the content that I make, talking about the Iowa Hawkeyes and the Big Ten. And without further ado, let's get into this. Folks, the offensive line is probably the most important position for the Iowa Hawkeyes. Now, you could also argue that it's not, considering last year, Iowa's offensive line was not the greatest, and they still won 10 games. And to be totally frank, the Iowa offensive line as a unit has been pretty average for the past 2 or 3 years, and Iowa has been very successful. The run game and the offensive line, nonetheless, is important. I think it is important. I wouldn't say, in my opinion, that it is the most important. A lot of people, when they look at Iowa, they view it as the most important. I would say that the defensive line and the defense as a whole is the most important group when it comes to the Iowa Hawkeyes. I would even say that the running backs might be a little bit in front of the offensive line when it comes to importance. But nonetheless, there are some key hogs in this up the middle for the Iowa Hawkeyes up front here. And they lost some key contributors in Kyler Schott, Tyler Linderbaum. I mean, folks, Iowa is just not going to replace Tyler Linderbaum. And I'm going to let you guys know who the major players are to try and replace him. And I do think that they have upside, but to think that anybody or to expect anybody to be at, or play at the level as Tyler Linderbaum is just not going to happen. The guy was unreal, first round talent at the center position. He is a 1 in a million talent. Now, here we have by 247 Sports here, the projected depth chart for the Iowa Hawkeyes. And let's start with the left tackle and left guard here. They project Mason Richmond as the starting left tackle, Nick Deyoung as the 2, and left guard, they predict Justin Britt as the starter with Tyler Ellsbury being close behind him. I would say that I agree with this. Mason Richmond came on strong last year. Nick Deyoung and Jack Plum were the primary starters last year, but they were wildly inconsistent. And because of that, Iowa kind of had to play it game by game, and they were more than okay with playing other guys at the position if the guy who was the starter going into the game wasn't getting it done. And that's when we saw Mason Richmond really come on strong. I'm a big fan of Mason. He is very athletic for his size. There was some highlights of him coming out of high school where he was making plays at the tight end position, and it just showed his athleticism like crazy. I think Nick Deyoung, will definitely compete, but I would say it's Mason Richmond's position to lose. Of course, there's always dark horses, especially on the offensive line for the Iowa Hawkeyes. At left guard, again, Justin Britt and Tyler Ellsbury. Tyler Ellsbury was a former 4-star, according to 247 Sports. Justin Britt has been a guy that Iowa has been very high on for a long time. Injuries have kind of plagued his career. I think that Justin Britt is a guy that can make this offensive line much better than people are expecting going into the season. If he can propel his game to the level or close to the level that a lot of people have expected, then I think this Iowa offensive line unit will have some nice upside for the season. And then looking at Tyler Ellsbury, I definitely think, let's take a look at his recruiting profile here. I definitely think that he has a shot. I don't think that it is a guarantee that Justin Britt will be the starting guard, but as you guys can see here, Tyler Ellsbury is yet another in a long list of Illinois recruits that the Iowa Hawkeyes have snagged out of that state. He was considered a 92 4-star prospect, 4th best player in the state of Illinois coming out of high school. Then we move on to the center position, and the Iowa Hawkeyes are beginning life without Tyler Linderbaum. Could you guys have imagined if Tyler Linderbaum decided to come back for his senior year? Man, the Iowa Hawkeyes, I think the Iowa Hawkeyes would have been considered a top 10 team going into the season had he decided to return. I would say the overwhelming favorite is Logan Jones. And I would say that mostly it's due to what we saw Tyler Linderbaum accomplish, what we were able to see him accomplish. And it's a bit of a prognostication with regards to Logan Jones. To be totally frank, not many of us have seen what he can do on the football field in an Iowa Hawkeye jersey. He has a lot of the characteristics that Tyler Linderbaum had, super successful in the state of Iowa. You would be hard pressed to find a guy more decorated than Logan Jones in the state of Iowa in multiple sports. I believe he wrestled. He definitely did track and field. I believe he also played basketball. He may not have wrestled actually, but he definitely hooped for a little bit. So this guy definitely has athleticism. I am curious to know if he wrestled. I don't know if he has that, but he did play multiple sports. So the athleticism is definitely there. The reports are that he was doing well on the defensive line. And the Iowa coaching staff is kind of hoping that that same mentality that made him successful on the defensive line mixed with the athleticism will make him an excellent center prospect. Behind him is Michael Mizelinski and or Tyler Ellsbury, excuse me. And I think both of them also have shots. I don't think it's a guarantee that Logan Jones is going to be the starter for the Iowa Hawkeyes. I think the Iowa Hawkeyes are very open to who can start there. And, you know, I think the one thing that Logan Jones has going for him is he did play offensive line coming out of high school. You know, so he knows how to play the position. And I would say he's probably even further along, or maybe not further along, but has past experience at the position that is better than what Tyler Linderbaum had coming in to the position when he first started. So there's a lot to like there. And ultimately, I do trust the Iowa Hawkeye coaching staff's ability to develop as well as scout a player and their potential upside. Michael Mizelinski was committed to the Texas Longhorns. He was a highly, highly recruited guy. His dad is a coach in the NFL. And then obviously you guys heard about Tyler Ellsbury. Matter of fact, Michael Mizelinski, had Logan Jones not moved over to center, Michael Mizelinski, a big selling point for the Iowa Hawkeyes when they recruited him was when Tyler Linderbaum is gone, you'll be the starting center. And, you know, and it really looked like that was going to be the case for him. But now he definitely has a bit of competition in Logan Jones. The last two positions would be right guard and right tackle. I think Connor Colby is the only guy on this offensive line that is a guaranteed starter week one. The guy proved what he was capable of as a true freshman last year. I believe a true freshman last year. He is super talented. And I think he's only going to be better going into this season after a full year of Big Ten reps. So he is a guarantee. Unfortunately, the guy behind him, Bo Stevens, is really talented. Another guy that the Iowa coaching staff liked his athleticism, liked his upside. And I actually think that he has the potential to play at right tackle, at right guard, at left guard, maybe not left tackle, but he has the position to play, or the potential to play, a few positions on this Iowa Hawkeyes offensive line. We'll see what happens there. I definitely like his upside. We'll see how he develops. But one thing you guys can bank on is Connor Colby is the guy going into week one, and I'd be super shocked if he was not. Right tackle is projected to be Jack Plum. And the two guys behind him are Nick Deyoung and former four-star recruit David Koff out of the state of Illinois. You guessed it yet again. One more thing with the projected offensive line group here. I do like Jack Plum. You know, the Iowa Hawkeyes, they really, really look for guys that have the athleticism that they know that they can bring in because they have the athleticism and add and pack on weight and morph them into the full package. Jack Plum, you know, was a tight end in high school, 6'8". He has a massive frame, very, very tall. And, you know, I definitely think that he's a guy to keep an eye out to see if he can finally take that next step and become super dominant. I do want to read this to you guys here. We're not going to spend too much time on the offensive line. You know, I mainly just wanted to show you guys who the projected guys are, and then wrap it up by telling you guys who I think it will be on the offensive line. Let's read this here. The Iowa offensive line was not as consistent as it needed to be last year from the jump, as the Hawkeyes offensive front struggled in key situations throughout the year. Iowa will lose a couple of key contributors from last year's offensive line. The main one is the former Remington Trophy winner in Tyler Linderbaum, who was selected in the first round of this year's NFL draft by the Baltimore Ravens. Linderbaum was a model of consistency for the Hawkeyes up front at the center spot, and the Hawkeyes are hoping that another defensive lineman turned center in Logan Jones can take over that spot in the long term. Iowa will also be without guards Kyler Schott and Cody Ince. I thought Cody Ince retired before even last year. I don't know why they're bringing him up. Schott declared for the NFL draft after walking on at Iowa in 2017. Schott worked his way up the depth chart and became a feel-good story as he developed into a starter for the black and gold. And they talk about Ince a little bit. I'm pretty sure he retired about 2 years ago. The offensive line for Iowa will be missing a few pieces, as we mentioned previously, but there is optimism for this group and how it can come together. The Hawkeyes will be returning its starting left tackle in Mason Richmond, right guard in Connor Colby, and likely starting right tackle in Jack Plum. The left guard and center spots seem to be the ones that are up for grabs, though Jones may have the edge at the center spot. You know, I would agree, folks. I'm going to read this last thing here. Justin Britt and Nick Deyoung are the two underclassmen that could work themselves into the starting mix as well. Both had their ups and downs in previous season with the Iowa Hawkeyes, especially last year, though an offense of improvements and development could serve them well as they look to solidify roles. There's a lot of promising young players that could work themselves into the rotation as well, such as David Cobb, Bo Stevens, and Michael Mizelinski, among others. Iowa has recruited the offensive line well in the last couple of cycles, and that should carry over to production with full development. Another guy that I would say that's worth monitoring, as he was also a defensive lineman, a guy who wrestled and played multiple sports, is a guy named Griffin Little. I definitely think that he's a guy to keep an eye on with this offensive line group and who starts. Now, folks, this article is spot on. Ultimately, I think there's three guys that, unless they totally just don't do well at the beginning of the season or in camp, they will be the starters. I think that's Jack Plum, Connor Colby, and Mason Richmond. I would say that if I were to give a percentage on it, I think that I would give, and that leaves center and left guard. If I were to give a percentage on it, I would say I would give Logan Jones about a 60% chance of being the starter week one for the Iowa Hawkeyes. I do think Michael Mizelinski and Tyler Ellsbury are intriguing prospects. But I think ultimately the Iowa Hawkeyes like Logan Jones a lot. And the thing that Logan Jones has going for him is that the Iowa Hawkeyes have seen it done before, and it was uber successful. That's the thing that he has going for him. When it comes to left guard, I think I would give Justin Britt a 70% chance of being the starter week one. But I definitely think the Iowa coaching staff is open to other guys. And it's one of those things where they're going to see how they perform on the field. And if they're not getting it done, they're going to find somebody else who is. So I would agree with this projected depth chart. I really, really would. I think the thing with this offensive line is there's depth. That's the positive, is there's depth. The other positive is there's a lot of athleticism on this offensive line. The problem with this offensive line is there's no longer a workhorse. There's no longer a stallion on this offensive line like we have seen in years past with Tyler Linderbaum and Tristan Wirfs. So who is that guy going to be? Is it going to be Jack Plum? Is it going to be Connor Colby? Is it going to be Justin Britt? Is it going to be Mason Richmond? If I had to guess, I would say it's probably going to be Connor Colby. But there is not, the reality is there is not a 100% stallion, first team all Big Ten, one of the top players at his position on this roster. There is depth. There's athleticism, and there's a handful of guys with a ton of upside, but that's all it is upside. Ultimately, they have to achieve that level of success. Overall, I am optimistic about this position group. I think George Barnett in year two will get this offensive line much better than he was able to do in year one. This is not one of the best position groups going into the season, but I also don't think it's a position of weakness for the Hawkeyes either. And ultimately, Iowa does have a lot of guys that they can shuffle through if the starter is not getting it done. This is a position group that Iowa needs to solidify, because the really, really, really talented Iowa teams that are truly a top 10/top 15 caliber team, top 2 or 3 teams in the Big Ten are the Iowa teams with a great offensive line as a unit. So we'll see how this comes together. I will keep you guys updated on the offensive line group. I definitely like this group. As I said, a lot of upside. There's no workhorse. There's upside. There's athleticism, and really, there's a lot of this Iowa offensive line group has a lot of guys that are like, oh wow, I think he can be really, really good, but we'll see. Wow, that guy was a 4-star recruit. Okay, well, he has a ton of talent. He has a ton of upside, but we'll see. That is what this Iowa offensive line group is made up of. A bunch of guys with upside who need to prove themselves on the field. All right, folks, thank you guys so much for watching. This was a quick positional preview. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section about the Iowa offensive line group. Who are you interested in watching? Who are you interested in seeing their development? And let me know who you think the starting group will be up front. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. Help your boy reach 1,000 subscribers. Subscribing definitely makes you feel good. Like, comment, share. You know the drill. Put the PayPal and Cash App link in the description if you want to donate to the channel. And last but not least, DBAP, don't be a pussy willow and facts or feelings, because your feelings still so matter. Love you guys. See you guys next time. Bye-bye.